Welcome to today's Dream Firm Leader interview. My name is Tyler S. Clark, and what I'd like to do is introduce to you a CPA whose appreciation of their value has been reborn through a trial of fire, whose story will make you blush. A man so efficient, he's chasing and soon to surpass the fabled $1,000 per hour mark because he knows he's worth that and a whole lot more. The lawyer that navigates the tax code and penal system more effectively than a full self-driving Tesla from the future. Let us not waste but a moment of this entrepreneur's most precious resource, for it is time to share the witty wisdom, the incredible insights of the family man, reshaping what it means to have a family office that delivers top-tier service for a premium price. The one, the only, Martin Eisenstein, Dream Firm Leader of Martin D. Eisenstein, CPA and attorney at law. Marty, my friend, it is an absolute pleasure. How are you doing today?
Very good. Thank you. Thank you so much for that intro.
Fantastic. Well, I meant every word of it. You're a pleasure to work with. And let's go ahead and jump right on into this. So the first thing that I like to kick things off with is a common understanding of really what got you started in accounting and when did you start your firm? So just give us that really high level overview of your history related to your firm and accounting at large.
Well, I've always enjoyed working with numbers. Even as a kid, I enjoyed keeping baseball statistics, and I played like 300 rounds of Yahtzee and figured out what my average score was, and I just had some kind of affinity to it. And I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. My father was a doctor. I was never cut out to be a doctor, even though he wanted me to be a doctor. There's two people in the world. There are people who, when Trauma Center comes on TV, they watch intently. And there are people like me who, if I even suspect there's going to be the sight of real blood, I turn away. So I was never going to be a doctor. I had to figure out something else to be. And I actually went for vocational testing, and they suggested accounting. And I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the linearity of it, how everything balanced. And I had a friend whose father was a CPA, and I went for one tax season when I was in school undergraduate, and I did some tax returns for him. And I remember being fascinated by the idea that I could change a number on the return, and instead of somebody getting back $200, they got back $800. And this was because of some position I took. And the ability to actually make a change like that was one of the reasons at the very beginning why I like to do tax work. And, when I started doing work, there weren't some of the restrictions that there are now in terms of tax sheltering and other things. And there was room for very creative work on the tax end. As a matter of fact, they said that the most creative people in Hollywood weren't the actors, they were the accountants. So I felt that it gave some expression to creativity as well as technical and accurate work. And I liked how that circled everything about it. And I've been doing it ever since. It's been many, many years.
That's a great introduction, and I love that the creativity is more found in the accountants than the actors and producers in Hollywood. I'm going to have to remember that. That's very accurate in my opinion. So there's one other element that I want to bring to light very early in this conversation, because a lot of the market at large, the people not necessarily on this call, but our prospective clients, they tend to think that accountants are good at math. And I find that that's a really funny misconception. That's not to say that you can't be good at math and that some of you may not have a proclivity towards it or a more technical or analytical skill set. But I've recently, I read something that really struck home with me about what accounting is more closely aligned to. And it's more about logic. It's more about problem solving. It's more about being able to have sort of this blend of both creativity and science. And in light of that word logic, I think that a lot of people understand that if you were to pursue a career in law, having a profound understanding of logic and being able to, I don't want to use the word manipulate, but I will manipulate words to be able to fit certain logical arguments is a great skill set to be able to foster and have. And I think that relates well to accounting as well. Now, Marty, you are a lawyer as well, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Give a little bit of background for what made you to also decide to pursue that particular school of thought, that training, and why you're maybe more focused on the accounting and less so on the legal side, and how the legal side benefits you.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. So I went to school undergraduate. I studied accounting undergraduate and I had a decision to make when I graduated as to whether I was going to go on to an MBA or whether I was going to go to law school. And law school was always in the picture for me because I had a very inspiring professor of tax. I went to NYU and he was a CPA who focused in tax. And he, like other people had said, if you're interested in taxes, you might want to consider going to law school because taxes are laws and there's a legal basis. And to the extent that you want to understand it, you're better off understanding law. Well, I think every CPA or anybody who studied accounting has that kind of background because on the CPA exam, business law is a focus. You have to understand that part of it. So everybody's thinking along those lines. I wanted to make a career of tax from the very beginning. And I ended up going to law school at night, shortly after I graduated undergraduate. Thank God I did it then because it was before I had a child. It was before I lacked the energy that I had when I was in my 20s. And I got it. And it was a lot of fun. You went every night from 6 to 9:30, but you hung out and drank coffee with people. And there was a break in between. And I made a lot of friends there that I have to this day, and I really enjoyed that. But I looked at law as something that would help me in my accounting career and my tax work. And I wanted to do everything through my legal career so that I understood what was involved. So I know how to go into court and sue for a debt that's owed, and I've been involved in some litigation and planning and all of the things that a general practice lawyer does, because I think it's important to have that background. But that's not where my heart is professionally. It taught me how to write. That was a big part of law school because you had to sit there and write out exams, and just the writing out of exams every semester was something that trained you to think. The way you were graded on them was, they didn't look at everything that you wrote. They were looking for the key words like they did on the CPA exam back before it was multiple choice. And so you learn how to get out what you needed to say, in a fair manner. And these are all skills that help you have background and judgment when you serve a client. And, if I had it to do all over again, I would do it again. I enjoyed it.
I can't help but agree that I feel that that's an incredible skill set to choose to foster, and your justification for the decision is right on the money. I find it fascinating that when we talk about tax, it is laws, right? I mean, they are fundamentally laws. So having an understanding of the legal system, your role in it, what your options are, how to be able to participate in it, and also just being able to have a higher understanding and skill set specific to the law can be an incredible asset related to taxes, but it's also an incredible asset for continuing to demonstrate your value, being able to have a differentiating factor between other accounting and tax firms that may not have necessarily a law background or a leader of their firm at the top that has that rich history of an understanding of the law. So we're going to talk a little bit more about differentiation later on. But what I'd like to move more into as a part of this conversation here is really a little bit more about your work experience specifically inside of your firm and the type of clients that you are working with and the services you're rendering. So maybe bring us back to the beginning when you decided to start your firm. What was the driving motivation? And then bring us a little bit towards the present here with what is it that you're really looking to offer to the market, and who is that market you're serving?
Okay, so when I graduated undergraduate, I had a choice as to where I was going to go professionally. And at that time, it wasn't the big four, it was the big eight. There were some big eight firms that I had gotten offers from. I was, God bless, I found a calling and I did pretty well undergraduate. And I had some job offers. And I had a job offer from one of the big eight firms, and they offered to put me in the tax department. They gave me about 20% more offer than what they would have as an auditor. They were going to train me as an auditor, and it was a very nice opportunity. But I also was doing some work as an intern while I was undergraduate with a very dynamic CPA who ultimately became a talent agent for television news people. He gave up the accounting work, and I had an opportunity to come work with him to, in essence, handle the accounting side while he focused more on the representation, and do tax returns and advisory for newscasters, journalists, actors, actresses, the arts. So I got an opportunity to deal with the creative side, and I made a decision not to go with the big eight firm offer, but to work with the talent agency. And the pluses of that were, it was fascinating. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of diverse experience. And I got to do what I'm doing now, which was to advise people on their financial affairs, but not just the tax returns. These were people who were professionally describing events, but they were more verbal people. They weren't numerical people. So my job was to explain to them what the numbers meant in a way that they could understand. So the skill that I work on all the time is how to be clear, how to be succinct, and how to get my point across in a way that people can understand. Because there's no point in impressing somebody with 3 paragraphs of technical stuff that they don't understand and aren't interested. You got to get to the point. The downside of going for that career path was that I missed out on the structured training and indoctrination into how accounting is supposed to be done. And later on in my career, I had to pay for that and develop that on my own. But you have to have both of those to be successful. You have to communicate to the client, and you have to know what needs to be done and structured on it. Well, that world got very, very difficult. I started a family. My son had some issues. I wanted to be home and be more supporting. And I then I left the talent agency and moved into the second part of my career, which was to be a solo practitioner. And it was different than that kind of work. And I had to find clients. I had an initial client base of people that I had been working with at the talent agency, but I had to grow it to small businesses. I had to grow it to financial statement opinions, to CFO work. I had to learn how to give value to people who weren't newscasters and creative, but people who operated pizza parlors and electrical contracting businesses and all of this other stuff. But at the heart of it, everybody had goals. Everybody had what they were out for, and it was similar in a lot of ways. And that was the second part of my career. And I developed a fairly, lengthy client list, and I was doing a lot of tax returns and starting to get a little bit to the point where, is this really what I want to be doing with my life, which is, October, November, and December, looking for some additional revenue, because much of my revenue was at the beginning of the year. Did I want to be working 21 hours a day for 3 weeks so I could squeeze out an extra few $1,000s of revenue? And I enjoyed what I was doing, but I suspected that it wasn't good for my health.
So the journey is different, to be honest. And most people, they come out of school, they take their big 4, big 8 at the time opportunity, they cut their teeth, they learn that more traditional approach to accounting. You took a different path, developed a different skill set, were able to go through a bit of trial by fire because of that decision to learn those fundamentals, if we will. I know you already had them from, of course, your educational experience in college to a certain extent, but then we go out on our own, and now we're finding ourselves in a whole new realm where we're dealing with CFO services. We need to learn how to market more efficiently. We need to be able to price more efficiently. We have all of these additional systems and additional skill sets beyond the things that you had already picked up from being a lawyer to working in a talent agency to all of those things. And that brings us to a little bit closer to the present, Marty. And so I want to paint a picture for everyone listening. And this is a good thing for people to be able to pull into conversations with their prospective clients, or when they're getting ready to interview a really successful client like we have with Marty. Is what was your life like before working with us? What did you feel was really like a driving reason for why you needed to change or do something differently? Just take us back to that moment way back when we first started working together, Marty, and just explain sort of what was your mentality, or what were some of the things that you were struggling with at that time?
Well, the biggest problem was these issues of my business being somewhat lopsided. While I liked what I was doing, it wasn't a year-round business the way that I had structured it. And I focused on a lot of things, but I didn't focus specifically on how I was going to handle doing hundreds of tax returns and doing them efficiently and doing them so that I wasn't making mistakes and I was giving the client the service that they needed. And I would try new systems, and the new systems that I would try, they had some benefits, but there was a learning curve. And I ended up spinning my wheels to some extent and not being satisfied that I was doing something that gave me the satisfaction that I was looking for from a career. I was competing against people who were doing tax returns for prices lower than me. I had clients who were concerned about the fact that my prices were going up. I didn't do a good job of explaining to people what it was that I was doing, why I was doing it. And I had a personality flaw that I've identified that's part of my success, but also part of my failure. And that is that I want people to like me. And I like people, I want people to be satisfied with me. And so I did a good job for people, but I ended up attracting people who saw that and wanted from me as much as they could get for as little as possible. And I attracted clients who manipulated me, and it was an emotionally destructive kind of thing to go through, and I didn't want that in my life. And I had been, when I was with the talent agency, I considered myself to have been successful there, and I took a bunch of clients with me, and I tried like the Dickens to keep those clients on board, giving them whatever they needed. I didn't have this feeling that if I replaced them, that I could get new clients. And so it became this vicious circle of banging my head against the wall. And I wasn't satisfied with where I was going.
I appreciate the vulnerability that you shared in that answer, Marty, because there's an unbelievable amount of truth that I think almost everybody on this call can relate to. And it's hard to admit that our clients don't actually have sometimes our best interests at heart. They can be they can take advantage of our our willingness to care, is the way I think about it. Is, Marty, you're a people pleaser. I'm a people pleaser. We want to help people in the service space. It's naturally just who I believe we are. But the problem with that is that if we don't install what I like to refer to as bookends, or how we know when a service starts, where a service ends, when we're going to do something out of the goodness of our heart, some goodwill, but where that ends, so that it doesn't continue to perpetuate, because then it's one more request, or I thought this was included, and now we have almost it almost feels like our goodwill is being taken advantage of. And then who's responsible for that? Well, we are, and we're responsible for stopping it so that we can ultimately get the respect we deserve, feel like the client is also getting what they deserve, and more specifically, what they're paying for, or that they're acknowledging what they're not, what they're getting, what they're not paying for, however, and we're using that as a way to build meaningful goodwill with those clients, but they know that. And that can be hard. That's communication. And oftentimes accounting professionals, and even with your background and working with people who are newscasters, right? Great orators, great communicators. You work specifically on that skill. That problem can still persist if we don't have the right structure in place, and allows us to to properly express what our value is, and ultimately what exactly our services and how they're delivered. Because if you don't do that, it's no wonder why they're disappointed or frustrated, and you're disappointed and frustrated as well. So with that being said, let's go ahead and move a little bit further. You shared something with me the other day, and I'll be honest, I was a little taken aback when you said it. And I'm not going to say it verbatim, because I think it's your choice whether or not you share it. But you're a monster about self-investment. You said you had invested in a lot of other coaching programs. And now I just want to get maybe a little bit of an understanding, if you're willing to share, how much have you been investing in self-improvement, Marty? And what do you believe separates those investments from the ones that you've decided to make with Dream Firms?
Well, I've been investing in personal development and business and personal coaching over an 8-year period, to the tune of over 5 figures each year. And over that period of time, I've put in well over 100,000 into this investment in personal development. And I've learned different things along the line. I feel that I've gotten, as a return on this investment, a huge increase in my ability to earn revenue per hour. And when I say revenue per hour, I've also learned that you don't bill per hour, but you calculate the cost of the service that you provide by how many hours it takes you to deliver it. And you learn that the services that you want to provide are the ones that provide the value to the client that makes them worth the client buying, even though it doesn't take you that long to do. And the coaching is part of that whole process. And through the years, I've learned about, how my personal health, how my emotions, how my diet, how my fitness, how my habits, how all of these things impact on my ability to be productive. Where I think Dream Firms was extremely helpful for me is that it took all of these concepts and put them into the context of me being a business person in an accounting firm. And so the best way I can explain it is I went from being a tax preparer to being the proprietor of a global family office. And I'm sitting here in my office. I don't have anybody who comes into the building, but I have a full-time administrative person. I have other relationships. I have people I can call on. And by the way, that's a major part of the advantage of Dream Firms is the contacts and the ability to run things through. But the biggest part was it forced me to say, what is it that I want to do? And where do I want to focus my efforts? And this whole issue about having people not push you around or manipulate you, I was confronted with at the beginning, because the scope of what I do, how much I'm willing to do for what price under certain parameters, I had never really thought of that as something that I had to relentlessly focus on, think about, test, and grow. And the work that I've done on that is to get me to the point where I am now, where I'm here to help you if I can, is the way I look at my work with a client. There are some things I can't do. There's some things I can do very well, but for what I want to do very well, the client has to understand there's an investment required for it. There's value that they get in exchange for it. And if I can make that difference huge, then it is a no-brainer for the client to. So if we look at tax preparation, which we all understand, there are clients who could say, you're charging $495. I can go out and get that on TurboTax. Oh, you went up to $525 this year instead of, you're getting pricey. There are clients who say, why do I need you? I could get TurboTax for free. There are other clients who don't want to be bothered with this, who are doing creative work, who have the ability to turn it over to somebody they trust. What is it to have somebody be, as a person, your tax preparer, to be somebody who's going to be available to you during the year, who will get to know you, who will, if you get a notice or something else, will answer that notice, and who will come up with ideas where you can structure your own affairs in a way that you can reduce the taxes that you pay by thousands of dollars. Well, I would submit that somebody who pays me $2,000 to do their personal tax return is getting a great deal. But if you're at the beginning of your career and you're working as an assistant manager at Costco and you're getting a W-2, maybe I'm not the right person to deliver the value to you at this point. So being clear about that. And the other part of it is that I thought that success came from having as many clients as possible. And it doesn't. It comes from delivering as much value as possible to as many people as possible. And if you've got 1,000 clients and you're giving them $100 of value, and you got 20 clients and each one's getting $10,000 of value, you know, you're doing better for everybody and yourself by focusing on the smaller number. And that was key for me.
You bring up so many great points in this response, and I want to try and pull out a few to highlight. The first of which is Marty is no stranger to making the most important investment he can on a regular basis. I mean, the man just stated he made 6 figures worth of self-improvement investments. And I emphasize this over and over and over again. First of all, I don't really care if you work with us. You have to be one of my dream clients, right? Like, to Marty's point, like, I'd rather work with a smaller select few that really get it and can maximize what we're going to do. Just like Marty feels the same way. This isn't a wide market play where we're just going to service anyone and everyone. And to that point, we're at capacity. Like, you couldn't even work with us right now if you wanted to, because we've gotten so good at being able to find the right people and have them understand exactly what we have to offer. And that's exactly what we teach our clients to do. Getting to capacity is a good thing. Beyond that, the reason you get to capacity is because of what's going on up here and the things you're choosing to say yes to, the things that you're choosing to say no to. And when you surround yourself with like-minded entrepreneurs, when you have a coach who can be able to pinpoint what's going on in your thought process and pull on that string a little bit and say, that's something worth continuing to explore. Let's talk a little bit more about the value and all the things that you're bringing together and how this isn't a commodity. In what world would Marty and the things that he just described be brought up in the same sentence as TurboTax, right? That's a problem that will cease to exist at a certain point. Because when you can express what makes you different, right? The only reason that the market would commoditize you and compare you to a TurboTax or compare you to the cheaper tax return down the street is that they fundamentally cannot understand your value proposition. It's the equivalent of if I held up two white t-shirts right now and I said, what's going to be your driving decision between these two nearly identical or completely identical white t-shirts? It's going to be price. Because you're going to say, well, if that t-shirt and that, they feel the same, they look the same, they fit the same, well, this one's cheaper because you can't tell the difference. But if I hold up a white t-shirt and then I hold up a one-of-a-kind design t-shirt or even a t-shirt with just the design, you go, but that's just a white t-shirt. That t-shirt actually speaks to me and it fits, it's better form fitted. You don't even think about the price now because it looks cool. It increases your status. It's literally for you. And that's such an important thing that I can't overemphasize enough. And once you have that breakthrough, like Marty has, and all our clients have, where they make that connection where it's not about serving everyone and being a people pleaser to the first person who raises their hand and says, I need a tax return. It's about who am I fundamentally for and how can I express why I am for them? And when you connect those two dots together, as Marty has, magical things happen, not only for your thought process, which is the ultimate determinant in whether or not you make progress or not, but for how your practice fundamentally runs. Once your eyes are open to it, you can't unsee it. Marty, you have something you want to respond to that? I can see maybe you got something on the tip of your tongue.
Well, what I would like to hear my clients say is when someone asks them about me, I'd love to hear my clients say, he's expensive, but he's worth it. So, that's the key concept. Look, Tyler, you had us read a book, which it's just delighted me. But one of the things in the book that impressed me was they did a test. They took 3 glasses of wine and they put the price of them, cheap, intermediate, and expensive. And they had the people taste test the wine. And the people said that the wine that was most expensive tasted the best. And the trick was that the research was it was the same exact wine in each glass. But the fact that it was more expensive gave somebody the expectation that they were going to get value for it. And so there's, I went from looking, well, if somebody else out of the 1,000 people is charging X dollars, I got to charge X minus 1 because I got to show that I'm giving somebody value. Value is not in having the cheapest price. Value is giving the most back for whatever it is that you charge. And it's a very important lesson.
Yeah. And there's an important element to that I want to expand on there, which is perception is reality, right? We want to make sure that when, like, the reason people thought that the wine was, even though it was the same exact wine, it's such a crazy, like when you hear it, it's like, how could that possibly be? Especially, I living in France, the idea that you could get someone to drink wine and it'd be all the same wine, they wouldn't immediately know, let alone grade 1 higher based on price is kind of ridiculous, but it's true. And it's another example that as long as what we're putting out there is perceived to be valuable, and it is, the experience and the gratefulness, the respect that we're looking for from our clients, and the result that we're giving them will be more appreciated because we're willing to charge a premium. Like I fundamentally believe that everything about your mentality and your belief pattern and your ability to deliver a higher level of result goes up when you have a higher amount of cash flow to play with, to experiment with, to try new services, to reinvest into coaching and mindset, to do all of these different things. But if you can't make that initial spark happen, where you've got that premium price and you've got that understanding that you're worth it and the client can see it and appreciate it as well, it's really hard to be able to do that effectively. So I want to move the conversation forward a little bit here, Marty. When people are getting ready to join your service or our service, there's always apprehension, especially when you're getting into a premium pricing conversation, because we don't really know what it's like on the inside. We don't really know, are you going to deliver the goods? And so what I'd like you to just explain to the audience is, what was it like getting started with Dream Firms? What was that initial couple of days or weeks like? What did you start to notice or feel, or what made you really, what validated that this was a good investment?
I thought at the beginning that Dream Firms was about marketing my services and how to use social media and tools and advertising to get more clients. And one of the first things that you had me do was to do an analysis of my business, what I was doing on the administrative and the finance side, what I was doing in operations, how I was delivering things, you know, before we even got into the sales and the marketing stuff. And the fact that it was my business that had to be designed and operated in an efficient way, it confronted me with the reality of it. Until you have something that's of value, it doesn't make sense to go out and talk about how you're going to give that value to somebody else. And I have heard from you, and I've heard from many people, and I realize that one of the worst things you can do is be successful in your marketing when you don't have the ability to fulfill the work or scale the work or do the work right or anything else. It just doesn't work. So focusing on what that was, but really the most powerful part of the program, and one that still benefits me today and that I still work on, is it's called Dream Firms. And it's because what is my dream? What is our dream? And so it confronts you with the fact that, hey, you can decide what your dream is. You don't have to be a tax accountant doing tax returns for the rest of your life because that's what's going on today. And B, it's going to take some work to decide where you go and how you're going to get there. You're going to have to try some things and they may not work, and you're going to learn along the line. But we all know that to pursue our dreams and get there isn't something that happens in 48 hours. It doesn't happen without angst and failure and everything else. You know, my favorite expression is you learn much more from a chess game that you lose than one that you win. So it's banging your head against the wall, but figuring out what you want to do. And you know, but it refined things to, for me, where I wanted to be in terms of getting back to this family support, helping people in their, you know, not only in their relationships with their business and their investments, but in their relationships with their children and their parents, as it regards wealth transfer, as it regards emotional issues, because I firmly believe the accountants get to hear more of the reality of what's going on with people than therapists do. Because, you know, if somebody is gambling and spending a lot of money and it's causing a lot of emotional, the accountants see this more so, and they may never mention it to the therapist, but the accountant will figure out what's going on very quickly. So you have an opportunity to help.
Yeah, look, I think that you've brought up a really important point, which is people do come to us and they say, well, you guys are you're the goats of social media marketing, advertising, conversions. And that is true. And sales principles, that is by far what I consider to be the category king of, and our clients' results speak to that. But before we can even get to the point where we can make you the respective go-to expert in your niche, if you have a business that's built on shaky foundations or does not have a defined direction that you're legitimately excited about, like the reason dreams are fun or exciting is we can imagine a future that is different than the one we're currently experiencing. I have a quote that I love related to future-based outcomes now, which is, desire is a contract that we make with ourselves to be unhappy until we get what we want. And everybody on this call is here because they know that something could be fundamentally different with the way that they're running their business and being able to get a different result that will make them happier. But you're not going to be happy until you get that result. That's my kind of person, is like, we are blissfully dissatisfied here at Dream Firms, both from our perspective that we know we can, should, and be able to serve at a higher level. And our clients are the same way as well. And once you have that destination, once you have that clarity, you can reverse engineer from there and make the whole process one heck of a lot easier. But if we don't have a destination, how the heck are we going to hit any form of goal, let alone one specific to client acquisition? When I go, well, what's your dream client? And it sounds like it's a person with a checking account and a pulse. And I go, well, that's never going to work. Does that actually get you excited? It's like, no. Okay, well, let's unpack that. Why not? And how can we use the same principles that led you to this call to lead your dream clients to your calls? And then the light bulb goes off. And then we start putting the pieces in place. And yes, it requires some meditation. Yes, it requires some deep thought, but it is the most worthwhile effort you could possibly put into your business, because it will drive all future decisions once you make one powerful decision, which is who's your dream client and how well structured is your firm to be able to service that client. So let's move to another question. I can see a bunch of questions already coming in. Just as a heads up, if you've got questions for Marty, please drop them down below in the comment section. We will have Q&A for at least 5 minutes at the end. So we got about another 10 minutes of things that I'd like to bring up and address with Marty here. So the next question that I have for you is, let's talk about what you really enjoy most about working with us. We talked about the beginning and getting some really foundational things in place, kind of what you thought you came in looking for, and then realized that, hey, maybe we have some things we have to shift. But once you're actually involved, what is it that you really find yourself enjoying on a regular basis?
For me, the ability to get feedback from successful and dissatisfied people, as you would put it. And by the way, being dissatisfied with where you're at doesn't mean that you don't take pride and enjoyment out of what you're doing. It means that you're looking constantly for different ways to improve things. And when I find a technique that gets me through one work paper or something that I have to do in the office that much more quickly, I love it. I enjoy it. But I'm not satisfied until I drive it down to even where I need to be. But a lot of these improvements that I've done in my practice, I've seen suggested to me by people in Dream Firms. I've seen talked about by people in Dream Firms. There's one extremely dynamic accountant who focuses on planning for law firms. And she's doing it with a piece of software that I had no idea was used for that. I thought it was just used by people who didn't know anything to do business plans. So this kind of feedback, I am, as I said, one of the things that I've had an issue with is I'm not as experienced out in the public accounting, small business pricing area. I tended to underprice work that I was doing for business accountants, and having somebody that I can go to and put in front of the group, this is how I propose the initial fixed investment. This is how I propose the monthly investment, and to be told by 17 people, you're way underpricing what you're planning doing. So whatever money I spent on coaching, I got like $15,000 of additional revenue because somebody woke me up to what I was doing. And, I have a new client that I met with yesterday, and I ended up proposing a package to the client that was at least triple what I would ordinarily have done. And it's learning from the techniques in the group about what the scope was and what they would do. And my business, a lot of people are very attracted to tax planning. And I've learned that you can't go into a company and say, I found a way to save you $20,000, pay me $4,000 because I told you what to do. No one does that, nor should they. What they want is help in getting to the $20,000 savings. And if that requires an investment with me of $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 to implement that, they're quite willing to do that when it's phrased in that way. So how you approach what you're doing with clients and how you say and getting the advantage of other people's experience has been priceless from the Dreams Firm experience.
So many good things to pull from that and expand on, but I'm going to center really on one thing there, which is that having third-party feedback from like-minded peers when you're getting ready to discuss a potential proposal can be the difference between a okay to maybe not profitable engagement, like somewhat, to a really profitable engagement that's structured the right way, that's reflective of what the client's looking for. And Marty brought up one other interesting point, which is, look, a tax plan sounds really cool and interesting, but from the prospect's mind, I'm hearing a plan, right? It's like, okay, the plan sounds cool, but what happens? Like, am I going to do it? Who's going to do it? And it's like, that phrasing to me needs work. It needs to be more representative of a service that is not going to be a large price tag that leaves you in the dark. And I think, again, there's ways to be able to use our language set to be able to not say fee, but say investment, or to say price, to not say tax plan, but say something that is more reflective of the fact that you're going to be holding their hands through the implementation process, which is why the savings of that 20, 30, whatever it ends up being, $1,000 will materialize. Fantastic answer, Marty. I want to, and look, I apply no pressure on this question whatsoever, but I do think that numbers matter. If you're willing to share, how much have you added to your firm, and in what time frame since you've been with Dream Firms?
I would start from the beginning of 2021, and I would say I've added in repeat business somewhere around 150,000.
So Marty, you're a Dream Firm Award winner and you haven't even filled out the form yet. What do you not want the award? What?
I'd rather have the 150,000. So the award is great.
The good news is you can have your cake and eat it too. You can have the 150,000. I'm not taking that from you in exchange for the award. And now we get to send you an award. Congratulations, Marty. That's news to me. Congratulations on being a Dream Firm Award winner, and welcome to the winner circle. That comes with some cool perks and bonuses. So we'll explain those to you later. Well, my next question was, how close are you? But clearly you're already beyond it. And let's just talk to the audience at large here, and then we'll move to the Q&A section. Again, if you got questions, drop them now. Not guaranteed we can get to all of them, but what would you say to someone considering our services right now? And as a precursor, we're not accepting new clients. We most likely won't be for another 6 to 8 weeks. We are at capacity. But Marty, what would you say to someone considering our services?
I think the value is there from many different directions and immensely. I think we're all wanting to be successful entrepreneurs, and I think this program gives you what you need to find success as an entrepreneur. And I say entrepreneur, I don't say accountant, because we really are. And by the way, there's a guy who wrote a book called Accountanteur, which is worth reading, it about accountants and entrepreneurs. We have different skill sets. We have different things that we like to do in the space of financial advisory, and how you do it is open to you, but you're going to get what you need and the support on that through the program.
Beautiful answer. I appreciate that. We do cover a wide range of various topics. what has surprised you the most when it came to growing your firm? I mean, I think a lot of people hear $150,000 in new recurring revenue, and you certainly weren't starting from zero when you came to us, Marty. But I think a lot of people would hear maybe some sort of overwhelm in that. But what was surprising to you in your journey to this milestone of 150K in about a little close to a year?
That it did not come from 75 new clients or 50 new clients. It came from 17 new clients. And the ability to understand what it takes to service a client, what's a fair investment from the client for the services that I'm providing, both upfront and on a continuing basis, what the scope of those services is, what it takes to deliver them. These are all issues. And I ended up with $150,000 of profitable work, which I hadn't always done in my career when I added new business. I think the mindset that the program has given me was, I used to worry, was my price too high? And now I worry about finding the people who believe that my price is a good deal. And look, I went from the talent agency, where the talent agency was where people paid a commission and they got my service for free. I was like an add-on. So I went from a situation where they perceived me as having zero value, and it affected me through my career. Now I'm in a position where I know that I can deliver for people 10 times the investment that they make in me, but they have to qualify for it, that they have to be the right person. I have to find them, reach them, and work with them. And they're out there, and having the confidence to know that I can find them and service them is the priceless part of the program.
You said a word there that sometimes people can have a bit of a negative connotation, especially when they feel that they might be being subjected to commoditization or price compression, which is a deal. And I really want to emphasize that, because everybody is looking for a deal. Premium clients are looking for a deal. Price shoppers are looking for a deal. Everybody on this call would be looking for a deal if they were to choose to work with us, or anyone for that matter. And that's an important thing to not lose sight of, is that as long as your price relative to your value, which is an ambiguous term, but I say result, as long as your price is relative to the result and it's a deal associated with the result that you're providing, the question isn't, is my price too high? Oftentimes the question is my price high enough when I reflect on all the things that I am capable of providing as a tangible result back to this owner or prospective dream client? And once you put that into perspective, it's the type of thing that you will never lose sight of again. And it will make your client acquisition journey and your journey to your dream firm so much easier. So don't think you're necessarily doing something wrong when you're making a deal. A deal is a fundamental part of what you need to be able to do to get paid your true value. Cool. So we are very quickly approaching the Q&A section. But before I do that, Marty, I don't like to be like, hey, Marty, you have any last minute things? Do you have anything that you'd like to just expand on or say before we get to Q&A, Marty, that's just at the top of your mind, something you felt would be worthwhile?
2 points I want to make. Number one is that I have a philosophy with clients where I believe, and I've been working on this. First, I like faked it until I made it, but now I really believe it. I believe that I am of more value to them than they are to me. That this relationship is one that will help them more. While I like people and I enjoy dealing with them, I don't need them, they need me. And so my attitude is my work is guaranteed. If I quoted an investment and you don't feel you're getting the value from that investment, you don't have to pay me. just go your own way. I'd much rather be working with somebody who I appreciate it. And when you have that attitude with people, they kind of understand it. And I don't want to sue anybody for a fee. I don't want to get involved with. I want to reduce the clients that I deal with, and I want to deepen the relationship. And the other part of that is I don't have to sell a client on a gigantic investment with me the first time I meet. I like to do real estate closings. I like to do individual tax returns. My individual tax returns, as I said, they're $2,000, but you're going to get a full financial consultation where I can identify the right way to do your return and start doing some planning. But that's the beginning of the relationship. Maybe down the road, there'll be some work that they need on their $500,000 401k, or maybe there's somebody in the family that's selling a business. And so the work will come in later on. So it's a continuing evolving process.
Perfectly stated. We are now moving into the Q&A side of things. Sandra Ray, #proactive. You go, Marty. Thank you, Sandy. Joshua, not cut out to be a doctor. Ha ha ha. Nice pun, Joshua. Oscar, very cool interview. Thanks, Marty. What is it that you feel you have to do differently to reach that 1K per hour mark from the intro? What an awesome goal. Marty, what do you feel might need to be changed a little bit to reach that threshold?
So 1K an hour has to do with identifying the clients who qualify for the service that has a price, because it's got to be more than free TurboTax. It has to be something. It has to be something where we've put the investment in to become experts in what we do. I think I can do a reasonable tax plan for somebody in 2 to 2.5 hours. And that tax plan, however you discuss the cost of the implementation of it, could be $3,000, $5,000, $7,000, $8,000. So if I can find that work and then find the way to service the client, I can make $1,000 an hour. If I can, so it's relentlessly reducing the scope of what I do to only those areas that are valuable, and then increasing my productivity. A lot of this I've done is productivity enhancement.
Perfectly stated. I got another question from Jalen. Jalen says, how big is your team, Marty? Who was your first hire? I'm looking to expand my team now.
I have one on-the-ground administrator who's been with me for 18 years. Next month, it'll be 18 years. She used to work in my office when COVID came. She moved across town, and we kind of enjoy working remotely now. But she comes to the office if she needs to. I had a technical assistant for a number of months, and I'm going to hire another one at some point who's going to do some administrative stuff that my longtime assistant can't. I used outsourced offshore accounting help for some of the accounting work that I do. I don't have a junior on staff. I use onshore tax supports, and I have other accountants that I work with, but I don't do that many returns now that I can't handle them myself. For me to do if I'm spending more than 20 minutes on a tax return, I'm doing it wrong. Getting the data together and then delivering and getting it e-filed, that's the stuff that the administrative people do. So I'll do as many as I can during that short period of time, and I'll look for other revenue in other areas when I've reached capacity on that.
We have two quick questions that we need to get to, but that's a great answer, Marty. Lenny wants to know, how can I join your program? Lenny, we're literally not accepting anyone right now. We're at capacity. I believe in delivering the service to the people who are in the program right now. If you are interested, you will know when we are accepting new people, and most likely will be in about 6 to 8 weeks from now. So just keep an eye out on your email. Trust me, you'll be aware when we're willing to take new participants. And then I have a question from Keith. Where are your new clients coming from? Referral, et cetera. Just in one sentence here, 20 words or less, Mark, just because we're at the top of the hour and you and I know we got something we got to do. So how would you answer that? Where are they coming from?
Most of my clients are coming from referral. I have some work to do on the marketing end. I know how there are several different sources and channels that I can get myself in front of people through, and I'm working on that. But for me, the real issue is my business, and the better my business is and delivers, the clients will come. And at the high end, referrals do help.
Beautiful. Well, listen, Marty, I want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. This has been an absolute blast. I hope everyone has enjoyed today's Dream Firm Leader interview. Again, if you guys are interested in working with us, check out Igniter for the time being. Our Create Your Dream Firm program is closed admission right now because we're at capacity. But if you would like to learn more, again, join Igniter. The link will be floating around here somewhere. Great way to be able to just hold you over before you can get to the main course. And Marty, again, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for your time. But remember, only you can create your dream firm, but we're here to help you every step of the way. One thing, Marty, what do you got?
I started with Igniter. I highly recommend it.
Thank you. Everybody starts with Igniter. You got to have the spark from Tyler Clark. See y'all on the next one. Have a great one and enjoy the rest of your work week. And remember, we're here to help you every step of the way. Talk to you soon.